Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some regular revenge. Our first story today comes to us from Efficient Guide 420. Restaurant owner who doesn't pay bills and breaks regulations and laws gets his life ruined. Let's jump right in. Hi Reddit, newly on Reddit but started reading some revenge stories in the past few weeks. Thought to share my own story now that happened about 2 years ago. Background: I am quite a young guy, now 23, and started a small company with a few friends about the same age. We had some common interests in IT-related work, so we decided to make it official. But for us, it is more a hobby than a job. We just generate enough revenue to be at the $0 mark end of year, working weekends and evenings mostly. As we are all employed in our main jobs and earn quite well despite our age, no conflict of interest. I have a neighbor. I'm living with my parents in a small village in the countryside that manages a small, non-profit youth club out of his own pocket, mainly for school children to hang out on Friday evenings with their colleagues and enjoying some music and party. A room probably around 100 meters square in the school building, fitted with a small bar, lights, DJ equipment, 2 kilowatt PA system, etc. I was helping him out to manage this youth club when I was at school and from then on. We would rent out the equipment and offer DJing services for birthday parties, weddings, school concerts, etc. for quite cheap prices. Main story: through some colleagues of my neighbor, we got offered a gig to rent out equipment and offer DJing services in a restaurant. We met with the restaurant owner, let's call him RO, and get some backstory about the restaurant and restaurant owner. The location of the restaurant struggled hard the last few years, as it is quite remote in the countryside. Restaurant owner doesn't have much experience in running such a restaurant, nor anything to do with running a business. He was before a normal office worker, don't quite remember what exactly though, and at some point thought he can earn money with this restaurant. He rented it for quite a high price, with serving mainly food and some basic drinks. He started with that about 3 months prior. The interior of the restaurant was quite old and not a lot of effort put in to make it attractive for anyone wanting to come there. Kitchen wasn't quite up to standards. They are quite high in the country I live. Food was basically frozen and just heated up on demand. The chef in the kitchen wasn't a real chef, and restaurant owner was losing quite some money from running this restaurant. Restaurant owner planned to organize musical events every weekend to get more customers into the restaurant. Some weekends, restaurant owner had some small one-man bands organized. Another, we were planned for DJing, etc. I and my neighbor decided to give it a try for some time and set our price. It was quite low, probably about $150 a weekend, with 2 people working 6 hours 2 evenings. No big problem about the price, as it is more of a hobby and not income. After a few weeks of doing this, probably about 10 people, max probably 20, were there average a day on weekends. That's not a lot. The restaurant had space for 100 seats and definitely didn't cover costs. Restaurant owner approached me after some time to ask if I, actually my own company, would be interested in creating a website for said restaurant and run some advertisements on Facebook and Instagram. I agreed, why not? We haven't done such a thing so far, and we are willing to learn what we need to do, of course letting him sign a small contract. In about 2 hours, I had set up a small WordPress site with the menu, some pictures, etc., and hosted the site for him. For the advertisement, I required prepayment of the amount restaurant owner wanted to invest into it, just for safety. Total of this job was probably around $500, $100 for ads already paid. But then when we sent him an invoice, he mentioned that he had difficulties with paying it. I agreed on a payment of $200, and the rest can be paid over time by the restaurant owner. At some point, we heard that restaurant owner actually lent out $50,000 from the chef he hired. He didn't get paid for working there to help paying the bills. Even the one waitress working there hasn't been paid since she started working there. Also, the payments for our gigs were getting delayed for some time by restaurant owner. A bit concerned about this, I and my neighbor continued with the gigs, knowingly that we probably wouldn't get paid. One evening, restaurant owner approached me again to ask if I, in the name of my own company, can help out some technical stuff at his home. Sure I did. Prepay, $40 an hour, still very cheap, for setting up some email, fixing some printer issue, etc. at his flat. When I saw restaurant owner's desk, I was blown away from what I saw there all around. hundreds of unpaid invoices, bills, reminders, including third reminder to pay some bills, etc. They weren't small things. For example, reminders for rent of a restaurant and his own flat, internet, mobile phone, even federal reminders. I finished the job, went to my neighbor to tell him what I have seen in restaurant owner's flat. After that, my neighbor and I decided to decline any further gigs that were planned, and I, in the name of my own company, declined any further work restaurant owner requests and sent some reminders for our still open invoice, $200. We didn't get any money from restaurant owner after that, but wasn't hurting too much as it was just some free time I spent to create the website. After some time, I took the website and email server offline for the restaurant. And then comes the real revenge. I and my neighbor did some further investigation on restaurant owner and found quite some interesting things. Restaurant owner had tried to run 2 restaurants before, but failed miserably and had to file for bankruptcy. Restaurant owner hadn't registered the current restaurant as a business. Restaurant owner doesn't have a license to sell alcohol in the restaurant, and some other details. We also had some talks with the chef of his restaurant that lent restaurant owner that $50,000, and we advised him to ask for his money back from restaurant owner and take legal advice or go to court for claiming his money, because otherwise it may be gone completely if not already. With those evidences, we started to write some anonymous reports to federal administrations, tax office, trade office, health department, employment exchange, etc. And then we waited. A few days later, it started. Different departments were inspecting and searching his restaurant, and of course, had to close it. Searched his flat for files about the illegal business, questioned the chef and the waitress, and finally, restaurant owner got arrested. I couldn't really follow up what actually happened after that with restaurant owner because of the anonymous tips, and I was away from real life for a year, military service. I only know that his wife left him, some money was paid back to the chef and the waitress from his retirement funds, and I think restaurant owner ended up in jail for some years, but not sure how long. I, from the side of my own company, didn't bother trying to get our money restaurant owner owed us, as it simply wasn't a big deal and amount for us, as well as I and my neighbor didn't really bother either for getting some money. Seeing him go down and have his life ruined was more than enough for us as a payment. I hope you had fun reading through my story, even though it came out longer than expected. So did anybody else notice that OP was really passive about this revenge? They didn't care one little bit about the money that they were owed. They were providing a service, but didn't get anything in return. That doesn't sound like a good way to run a business to me. Whether you're doing it for a hobby or not, you need to hold people accountable. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from Dungeon Monster. That time I've got a brigadier general to personally apologize to me, a lowly corporal. Let's jump right in. Well, let me give you a bit of backstory. This was back in 2014. I was just settling into a comfortable yet unfulfilling task of being a secretary for a high, but not that high, ranking officer, let's call him Mick, in Air Force Intelligence. I loved Mick and the other officers in his unit, but didn't like the job because I was supposed to be drafted into a frontline intelligence unit, but broke my arm bad during the first day of boot camp. Anyway, was just doing my thing on the process of fighting to be allowed into officer school with 2 metal plates in my arm and a titanium bolt in my knee, and all that time working hard to keep my commander's schedule the way he liked it. Now, my commander had one strict policy. No matter who it was, no matter how high ranking or low, if he was requesting to join a meeting, an explanation, like meeting agendas, priorities, etc., had to be delivered to me as his secretary at least a week prior to the meeting to help him review it. If it was top secret or top priority, the week prior rule was not applied, but we still requested the explanation ASAP before we could say yes or no. Well, as you would imagine, he being a high-ranking officer meant that other, maybe even higher-ranking officers might request a meeting with him. Most of the time it went smoothly, except for one. One morning, I was receiving a call on the main line from a certain secretary of a certain high-ranking officer. Let's call her Betty and him Benny. Hey OP, I need Mick to head over to a conference meeting tomorrow at our office. Their office is in a different city, like a 30-minute drive. Hey Betty, what's this all about? I haven't seen an email invite with the details. Oh, we can't send it, it's top secret. This wasn't surprising. When things were top secret, usually it was explained over the red line, and in some cases sent by fax connected to the red line. Okay, wait a second then. I switch to the red line and call her office. She picks up. I can literally feel her scoffing through the phone and say, OP, this really isn't necessary. Just tell Mick to head over tomorrow by 10:30 a.m. Sorry, Betty. I can't do that without being given an explanation, written or verbal. What? Do you even realize who you're talking to? She then goes into me, yelling that she could have me on trial for not following orders from a superior officer. I was a mere corporal, which was unusual for a colonel. She was a major and a secretary of a brigadier general. I then go into anger management mode, and keeping my tone the most calm and reasonable, I say, if your commander isn't pleased with my reasoning, he's more than welcome to settle this with Mick. The thing is, Mick isn't available until 2 days from now because he's in active training. Almost all Air Force commanders in high-ranking offices are also pilots and need to go to their respective bases to train once a week. What? Your commander will hear of this? Click. Well, figuring this isn't over, I send a page to Mick saying he might receive angry calls soon. He's a really chill guy and knows to trust my judgment by now. Also, a side note, Mick's office is so unique. He doesn't have a direct commanding officer that's Brigadier General. His direct commander is the commander of the entire Air Force. 15 minutes later, I get a conference redline call from the Air Force Command Office. In it was me, Betty, and the secretary of the commander, let's call her Angela, outranking both me and Betty by a lot and 100% not interested. Hey OP, I'm here with Betty. I understand they requested Mick to come to a conference tomorrow. Yes, she did call me, and as I explained, that without a reasonable excuse, I cannot change his schedule like that. And like I've said, I can't divulge that info to a corporal, it's top secret. Angela now getting more annoyed by this. You do know there's no officer acting as Mick's secretary, right? It's not my problem. I have orders not to divulge top secret info, which is total BS. I have clearance levels higher than most, as Mick's role is head intelligence officer to the Air Force commander himself, sometimes representing him in meetings with top-ranking officials across the globe. Well then, even if you're right, why didn't you fax it via the red line? Send it now or Mick won't arrive. Oh my god, what is it with you people? Don't you get that my commander's meeting is important? Send Mick and that's it. She then goes into yelling at the secretary of the Air Force commander, blaming her for incompetence. Suddenly, we hear rushing steps and a different voice comes up from Angela's phone. Hi, yes, who is it? It's Betty from Benny's office. I understand you're the secretary of the Air Force commander. She then opens up on a tirade of lies about me and Angela. The voice cuts her. I'm sorry, Betty, but this is the Air Force commander. Remind me who's this Benny you're so arrogant about that you decide to yell at two of my most trusted secretaries? Betty, grasping at straws right now, mumbling, oh, sorry, sir, it's just that they weren't very nice. The Air Force freaking commander, well, I can hear Angela laughing her butt off in the background. Betty, listen closely. I do not like your attitude. I do not approve of your demands. You can tell Benny that until he personally apologizes to both my secretary and Mick's, he can expect no attendance from the Air Force in any meeting. Good day. Click. 1 hour later, I receive a knock on my office door. Here enters Benny, a brigadier general, asks for me, apologizes for his secretary's behavior, and asks if there's a way to get Mick in his meeting. I stammer out that I'll check with Angela. We eventually sent a low-ranking official that told us the things spoken in the meeting were not top secret and had nothing to do with the Air Force. He just came, ate some pastries, drank some coffee, and left. Betty never called us again, only Benny, and he always asked for me. This one would also fit really well over in r/military stories. I'm sure they'd love it there. Now, I don't begin to understand the military ranking thing and all the responsibilities that they have, but one thing that I've learned from this story is that maybe you shouldn't take somebody at their rank because you never know who they're working for and what clearances they actually have. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.